to speak today a bit about currencies and more specifically on the just exchange rates, which a lot of times gives clients nightmares. Because they're not necessarily sure what's going to happen when they run it. Guys, I did see I didn't change my name when I copied this. It is not Doug presenting, it's me, Lo Beekman. Sorry about that. It's very embarrassing. We're continuing on. So quickly, what we're going to go through is setting up currencies, exchange rate services. That's just to update your exchange rates on a daily basis automatically. The just exchange rates functionality for month end usually, and then additional reporting currency, and then possibly a bonus preview posting, which is not yet available in BC, but it should come available a bit later this year, hopefully before September, and then you can actually preview post a just exchange rate job, which I think a lot of you would be very happy with. So I'm going to go straight over to BC. And we are going to start off with currencies and the currency table. So if you search for currencies, or if you go to your menu bars and go to currencies that way, there you will find all your currencies that's set up in the system. I've got my local currency here, called ZAR, and if you go to your general ledger setup, that is where you actually set up your local currency in the system. So if you have more than one company, or you create a new company and the new company possibly has a new local currency, you can come to your general ledger setup and change your local currency to what it should be. In this case, our local currency is ZAR. When posting any currency documents, you will post with a blank currency code. You don't post with your local currency code. You don't type in ZAR. And for that reason, it is sometimes beneficial to actually not have this ZAR currency code here, because it creates confusion for the system, and it will then actually come and look at this currency exchange rate that's in here, which might be completely wrong, depending on what somebody entered in there or what was set up in the system way back, or possibly copied over from a previous setup company. So in general, this would usually just be exchange rate 1, because it's 1-to-1, but I'll show you now in a little bit why I've got a little exchange rate there as related to something else. But the other option is just to delete this currency, and then you won't be able to post against this currency, and your users won't be able to make the mistake of selecting a posting document as ZAR instead of a blank currency code. Then going through the currencies, you have usual description, ISO code, ISO numeric code, and then you have your exchange rate date here, which would be the latest exchange rate date or exchange rate that is in the system, and you have your exchange rate, that's your latest one. We will get into exchange rates table now soon. And then after that, you have 4 accounts that you can set up for your currencies: realized gains account, realized losses account, unrealized, and gains and losses. This could be the same account, then gains and losses would go to the same account for both, or you could even have all 4 of the accounts exactly the same, Eventually it will all be in and out, but it just makes it better for reporting purposes if you do have split up accounts. Quickly from another point of setting up that gains and losses, because that's when you adjust your exchange rates. If you go to your chart of accounts and you actually go to one of your accounts, any of them, there is an option in here, exchange rate adjustment. So when you do your adjustment at the end of the month, there's the ability to set certain accounts to do no adjustment, or adjust the amount, or adjust the amount according to additional currency amount. This way, when you do your additional reporting currencies, you can actually set it to do no adjustment on your additional reporting currencies, or you can say adjust it on your additional reporting currency, which I will get to later. But you can separate accounts so that not all accounts gets handled the same. Then if we quickly go into, which is a feature which will assist you a lot in very quickly creating currencies, there is this exchange rate services feature, which you set up going to, sorry, there's just more people joining. Just want to see that it actually admits. Okay, it's admitted. For everybody who joined slightly late, this is a recording that we will send out later. So there's this exchange rate services where you can go set up exchange rates, different exchange rates. The ZAR would be the normal one that you set up. And yeah, you can basically give it a URL that it looks to. This doesn't have to be floatrates.com. This can be a certain bank that makes the XML document available, or there's a few services, web services where you can get these from. But float rates is one of the most commonly used, and they give you, you can have different ones. So for instance, if I preview this, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of the actual setting it up. But if you now preview, you'll see just give it a few seconds. You will see the rates. Currency euro. Today the euro is 20 rand. 1 GBP is 24 rand, and the US dollar is 19 rand. If you go to this other one that I set up, which is slightly set up slightly different, and you would normally not have this. But this is if you want to use a relational currency code, you can set it up that you have a currency code, a relational currency code US dollar, and the euro is slightly stronger than a US dollar, similar of the GBP, and then you've got the ZAR that is completely far off. Guys, if anybody can't see my screen, I've got a chat open on the right hand side. So if anything's slow or it's stopped, please just pop a message there on the side. So you can also set it up for different rates, and for float rates, all you have to change is the service URL, the last little bit. ZAR, US dollar, euro, depending on your company. And like I say, you can also actually set up it to use it as a relational currency. Once it's enabled, it creates a little job queue. Which the update currency exchange rates, and you can then from here come and change your job queue to run differently, depending on how you would like it to run. This is obviously when I set it up. Don't really worry about the specific timing, but it would be great if this actually runs at 3 o'clock in the morning and not at 9 in the morning when people's already started capturing. So I won't go into detail about setting up your job queues, but it would be more beneficial to run it earlier in the morning and float rates in specific updates their currency rates at the end of the day, very late. So very early in the morning is usually a good time to go check it out. On another note, it takes the day, the currency rate, closing rate of the previous day. So for instance, it now posted when I ran it, and I can now quickly say process exchange rate service, update exchange rates. If it didn't run, you can just come here, exchange rate service, update exchange rates, and then it runs it through again and it updates it. It runs it for the 18th of the 5th. And not for the 19th, because that's the currency that you actually have is the 18th. What now would happen if you post a document on the 19th is it would have the, so I'm just quickly admitting more people. If you create a document on the 19th, it would have the 18th closing rate on that document. And previously, I have seen that auditors asked why is the 19th currency rate not the same as the currency closing rate that you would have on the 19th. And it basically is just that you captured the document before closing rate of 19th was available. And if you would really like the 19th rate in there, when you actually capture it, you would have to go manually add it or capture it after the closing rate's been entered. And then obviously, if you manually add it, you won't really actually have the closing rate of the day, so you'll have some rate was between starting and closing rate. So just something to note, but I don't think a lot of auditors would be that specific. Then if you go to your exchange rate table, you can click on the cell here and say exchange rates, or you can actually just click on one of these little numbers. It goes into the exchange rate table. You get a few options, and this is where you can actually come in and manually add new currencies. Currency code is 0. It automatically picks it up from the line that you were on. The exchange rate amount usually is your, it would be your euro currency. So you call this, or you make it 1, and then what is the ZAR amount, relational exchange rate amount for your local currency. You could also do it the opposite way. You'd also say this is 20.910694 divided 1 divided by that. Gives you that, and you can make this 1. In this way, you will get the exact same answer as the above. Yeah. For your currency factor that gets used when it does the exchange rate. But the usual way would be this way. What you would use that sometimes for is if you've got rounding reasons where your currency rate that you're typing in is maybe more numbers than the 6 decimals, and you actually have a different exchange rate the other way around with only 6 decimals, and then you could use it that way around. So for instance, if I go back and say 1 divided by 20.910694, and I make this 1, maybe you actually wanted this to be free because that's how it actually rounds off if you use it this way around, or the currency that you're pulling from somewhere as in this way around, then this would be more accurate than the other way around. But mostly that is not required. That's not really required. Then the adjustment exchange rate amount generally is exactly the same, especially if you update your currencies automatically or exchange rates automatically. It's always going to be the same. And when you run your adjust exchange rates, it actually looks at this side of the table. But possibly you updated your currencies possibly you update your currencies, I'm going to put it automatically, and now at the end of the month you're actually using a different exchange rates than what was updated automatically, then you could fill it in on this adjust exchange rate amount side, and that is what would get used when you do your adjust exchange rate amount. Exchange rate. And then fixed exchange rate amount is just does it get changed on invoices and journal lines? Which one gets used? Currency, relational currency, or both? So it just looks at do you only change it for the currency code or relational currency code, which I will explain now in a little bit, or both. Usually if this is blank, which it usually is, then you can just use it as currency. I've never seen somebody using the relational currency code. So very briefly, if you go into this, you can go here, and that's why I updated the US dollar one as well. Yeah, I actually have a relational currency code. So currency code is ZAR, relational currency code is US dollar, exchange rate amount is 1, relational exchange rate amount is 0.051613. So this is actually, if you look at this, this is 51613. And if we look at the currency factor, which has the last currency factor in, it's 51613 for the US dollar here. That's over there. And 19.37493, which is 19.37493. But if you actually go and divide both of these by 1, you will see that it actually doesn't match up 100% correctly. And that's basically where you could use relational exchange rates, and you wouldn't really use it with ZAR. I just updated the ZAR, but what you would use it with is more something like Euro, where you would want to say, I've got on the 20th of the 5th Euro, but I want to have my relational currency code US dollar. Exchange rate amount is 1, and my Euro amount is 1.12. I don't know what it would be, and similar 1.12. So if you post now an invoice with this on the 20th of the 5th, what it would actually do is it will calculate with a Euro amount. It will calculate Euro to US dollar, which is 1 to 1.12. And then it will go to US dollar, and let's say on the 20th of the 5th, you have a dollar rate of 20. Then it would take that exchange US dollar rate and convert it to ZAR. And I am going to create a invoice now quickly on the 20th to give you an idea of how that would work. If we go to sales invoices, and Just gonna make my document data 20th. And we actually want to be posting in here. Then if you have an amount of 100 in total euro, then we end up with an Axel ZAR amount of 2240. Now I somehow feel like that didn't work out as great as planned, but maybe let's see. So we're saying 100 euro is no. What am I doing here? I should have made my numbers easier. Sorry, it's admitting another person. The 100 euro is worth divided by 1 point, no, 5 times 1.2. 100 euro is worth $120, and times that by 20 didn't work out. So somewhere in my mind, I had it the wrong way around. I'm just going to quickly have the currencies table open so I can actually see what I ended. Sorry. Yeah. Go to currencies on 1.12. Okay, try it again. So 100 is euro is worth 112 US dollars times, and $1 is worth 20 rand, so times 20, and that gets you to 2240. So you can actually to get to your local currency, you can go first convert from euro to US dollar and then from US dollar to rand. If that's something somebody would use, I'm not 100% sure, but it could be possible, and it would give you a different answer going straight as to going straight from euro to rand. Sorry, I'm just Tanya's. I've admitted Tanya. Sorry about this. Meeting guest seems to be struggling to get in. Hi, Tanya, if you can raise your hand just to say that you are in, or maybe message in chat. Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so that's sort of the relational currency code that usually tends to be blank because blank is your local currency. Then if you adjust exchange rates, which we just quickly want to post a sales invoice, which we actually had there. Sales invoice, I am going to post this. Let's get some data. And then I just want to quickly general, create a payment. And let's make the payment next month, the 15th. Payment. paying a customer or customers paying us. And I did change the currency code, so I'm just going to change it here as well, euro. And initially that invoice was for 100 years, so we're going to pay the full invoice and select the bank account and have it set up correctly. Must be this, obviously, sorry. And it is 100. So if I now go and say process manage first, and we go look at our actual current customer, wrong customer, sorry. Yeah. We had two amounts posted. One was on the 15th of the 6th. One was on the 20th of the 5th. And they both were now actually captured at the same rate, which is not what I wanted. I'm going to reverse that transaction. Sorry about this. I want to add a different rate for euro. Let's add a date on the 15th of the 6th and make that 22. Yes. I'll caption it again quickly. On the 15th of the 6th, payment customer and there's 100 amount. Okay, the actual amount is different this time, which is great. And I'm going to post this. This is going to allow me. Again, all payments are negative to a customer. So you have an invoice for 100 euros and you've got a payment for 100 euros. So technically there should be no balance. But because your local currency was at different rates, they both get their rates are different. This payment was only made on the 15th of the 6th. So by the end of May, you now want to see what your local gains and losses is, and you want to do a just exchange rates. Now there is two ways. You can go to the currency table, or you can just type in just exchange rates. And then from here, you can choose for what period you want to change, do your exchange rate changes, which let's say this is for the month of May. And usually your posting date is is the same as your ending date, but you can also change your posting date. Posting description, this just sort of create a description, dynamic description, which adds in certain fields. We can look at the what that percentage 1, percentage 2 actually does to the description, but you can also make this exactly your own description. It doesn't have to be like that. And we're just going to call this May 23 adjustment. Then you have a choice. You can actually adjust customers, vendors, and bank accounts, or just customers. And if you select just customers, you can actually also go and say, customers, I only want to run this job for that customer. But if you don't have any of that, you don't put up the filter, it will just run it for all of it. Now, in this case, I don't really mind. We only have one customer. For older versions, some of you might see that you only have one tick box here, or well, technically two, this bottom one, and then one for customers, vendors, and bank accounts. It is something that came through on a later version that's currently in the cloud. We can choose between customers, vendors, and banks. Previously, it was customers, vendors, and banks all at once. And then if you run run this, there is nothing to adjust. And the reason for that is these two payments haven't been applied yet. Oh no, that's not the reason for this. Sorry. The reason for that is there's no exchange rate difference. We go back to our currency table, and we go into euro. We want to add at the end of the month a new rate, and we are going to say our new rate here is, say, at the end of the month, it also went slightly up 21.5, and this would be the same, or you could change it and you can maybe say this was 21.3 when you auto calculated it, but you now add your own rate in here, 21.5, when you actually want to come and do your adjustment, which would be what you would do before you do your adjustment. First exchange rates. And now if I go OK, should do adjustment, something was adjusted. Now you want to quickly see, because usually you don't have one customer, and usually you don't have just customers, it's banks, it's vendors. What did this thing actually post? So there is the exchange rate register. If I can type it in correctly, exchange rate adjustment register. And here you can actually come and see this was when you did your adjustment, and you can say show ledger increase, and there was no ledger increase. Also, why not? I am not sure. So you could see that this was adjusted in the end of what this got adjusted. The 100 year became the got adjusted to 2150. What I'm not sure about is why is there no ledger increase for this. The ledger entry happened. It should have been in the just exchange rate register. Okay, the ledger entries are there, and you can see there's now unrealized loss created for this entry, but I'm still quite unsure why it didn't actually post, or why you can't access the ledger entry from the just exchange rate register. I'll send you an update afterwards, which tell you why. But besides that point, now you actually get to the point where you do your payment, and now you want to apply this payment to this in. I want to apply this payment to the actual invoice. Something to note: if you haven't done the if you don't apply this payment and you run an adjust exchange rate at the end of June, then both the invoice and the payment would get adjusted again with a new rate at the end of June. There's going to be more unrealized losses in your account. So it's very beneficial to update your, apply your entries to keep your customer actual balance to you more correct and your GL reporting. So process, you can preview post to supply, which actually tells you what's going to happen. It's now telling us that it's removing the unrealized loss, which initially was there, and it's creating a new realized gain, or sorry, realized loss. And then the end value to your customer, the change was actually 50 rands. And you can also see this in your detailed ledger. And if you post this application, then your balance is zero. Although there was the actual remaining amounts from the payment and invoice was different. Now what I actually want to quickly also show you, if something went wrong and you actually wanted to do adjustment on those entries, but they're not applied anymore, you can always still go and say, or if your application was wrong, you can go and say applied entries. Sorry, not entry, just go to make your customer, so it's not only open entries, closed entries as well. And this entry, applied entries, entry, not unapplied from you. No. Process, yeah, unapply entries, and you say unapply, and it will revert back to what it was before. To 150, and you will see that that actually now posted also to your realized gains and unrealized losses account again. It would have posted those entries, reverse those entries. And now for a quick bonus feature for something to come, and I'm going to test this for the first time. It is hopefully going to work. So if you are going to currencies, I would assume when you search adjust exchange rate, it will work the same. But for this feature, if you go here, it adds a little extra thing, options, adjust per entry, specifies if adjustments should be posted per each customer or vendor ledger entry with currency fluctuations. You can actually now, not just for one customer, post one adjustment, you can do it per entry, and then also have a preview posting. So I'm going to make this the same as what it was. Actually, I'm going to quickly do an adjustment at the end of June, and then we can see what it actually would do. So for euro, I'm going to have a new rate on the 30th of June, and we are going to make that something ridiculous, 25. can have some amounts and close. For the 3rd of 6, 23 to the 30th of 6. And I want to preview post this. Again, you can select all your filters. This is the first time I'm doing this. I've never actually checked what happened. And here we can actually see now there is the 50 that was the initial unrealized gains, and then these are the two new amounts. So there's all 300 Rand extra. Oh well, new gain. There's now a big gain. And then there's actually now an exchange rate adjustment ledger entry as well, which you can come see here, which is also a new table. You can see the currency factor, base amount, adjustment amount. This is unfortunately only will be available later this year, as per current release plans by the September 2023. So before the last quarter, but that could also still change. And this will only be a cloud customers that's on the newest version. And then you can see your detailed customer data entries for this before you actually post this. So if we go to adjust exchange rate plus raise, plus exchange rate raise. Right, there, rate adjustment. Nothing, we didn't do another adjustment. So that was just the preview posting. Still very unsure why the GL entries are. I can see now, yeah, what's going on. Is there a little more entries? This is showing, this is probably because of a new feature, it is showing the exchange rate adjustment ledger entries here. And I did this from the other side, which doesn't have it. If you go to exchange rate adjustment, it doesn't have that preview function. Then lastly, something that you can also do with this adjust exchange rates is the additional reporting currency. Now, this is for when you really strictly for actually reporting purposes. And the idea is that if you've got members or board members or people in a different country and you want to report to them in a different currency with additional currency, you set it up in your general ledger setup, and you come here and you say additional reporting currency. You choose it here. If it's not been set up and you've been posting for a while, if you go and now select you want to report in euro, you've got a euro. People you want to report in euro, it actually is going to now do some posting in the background. And you can view the document and adjustment reporting currency. Reason why you need to give a retained earnings account is it's now going to go back through your whole GL, depending on, like I showed you earlier on the GL setup screen. You can say do not adjust or adjust for reporting currency. So it's going to look at the actual GL account before it actually does it. But this will now just go through the all old entries and do adjustment entries depending on what's in your currency exchange rate. And because of that, there might be some roundings, and that roundings actually gets posted to your retained earnings just to make sure that everything balances. And then we have an error. Okay, so I don't have a residual gains account, which is for the euro. But if set up, that will now post additional currency throughout the whole system. And you would end up being able to see that additional currency in your chart of accounts. If you go personalize, field, plus field, yeah, additional currency balance, and additional currency net change. You would see it here, and then you would, as with the rest, be able to adjust your additional currency with the adjustment exchange rate filter by going adjust exchange rates. Exchange rates and selecting these off or selecting all four of them, and then this will adjust your this reporting currency. But it's strictly speaking a reporting currency. It's not really anything else, and there is limitations to it. Okay, so I am going to, can I somehow get all the hands off here so that if there's any questions, you guys can ask. How do I take off everybody's hands so I can just, oh, I just click on it. No. Maybe if anybody's got a question, type, say hi in the chat and I will go along and open the mic. I feel like I should have taken a course on how to run this. How do you get the raised hands off? Actually, I think everybody needs to just click on their raised hand so it. Okay, there we go. Now I understand. Is there anybody that wants to ask a question? I'm going to start with Marialda. Your hand is still up. You might not want to ask a question, but I'm allowing you, opening your mic. I think you are still on mute. Janice, I'm going to allow your mic. And you are still on mute still. You also need to unmute yourself. Tanya, I'm going to allow your mic. Is there anybody else that has a question? Oh, hi, Janice. Oh, Janice spoke for a brief second. Let's go to the chat. Janice, you says no questions. Okay, cool. Thanks, Janice. While nobody's asking questions, I'm going to very briefly quickly say that with the adjust exchange rates, when you run it, it's not a reversible transaction, so you can't reverse it. But what you could do, is you can actually go and unapply entries that was previously missed and go readjust, or you could go change your exchange rates and run it again. And if it's old, very old entries that you want to go readjust, you go change your period, your starting and your end date, and rerun your adjustment for that period, and also make sure that in your currency table you have you have this adjust exchange rate amount changed to whatever you wanted to change it to. And maybe on a last thing that I know that people's been wondering sometimes is they've got a bank account and which generally has a few ins and a few outs, and it all gets down to zero. So your euro amount is zero, but your GL account is actually has an amount in. Similar with customers and vendors, if you actually compare your, but you don't really see it as easily with customers and vendors because it's usually a lumped GL account. But for banks, usually each bank has their own GL account, so you very easily pick it up. So usually when you end up closing a bank account, it's now back to zero for euro, but there's a big ZAR amount. That just means you haven't run your adjust exchange rates for that, and it would actually go and for that bank adjust all the entries at the last exchange rate, and you would get to zero. Because you had possibly had it in on the previous month and you had it out and they were different. The exchange rates were different at that stage, but the moment you adjust for banks, it adjusts all the entries before that to the newest dates so that you actually have a correct representation of your bank account in your GL. It looks at it basically make sure the balance of your bank account is the same as your GL account. Or sometimes not necessarily zero, but the euro amount compared to what's in your bank just looks very different. And it's most likely because you haven't run your adjust exchange rates for those bank accounts. Thanks guys for joining, and I hope this helped a bit. Any last questions or any first questions? You want to raise your hand? Then for you guys that's still in the meeting, I will share this recording. And if you have any ideas of anything else that you want to have, like a little session like this in a few weeks' time, you're more than welcome to give some feedback. And please give feedback if there's anything that we can improve on this sessions. I would say, number one, just handling the session and the raising hands part, but now I understand actually how it works. I don't have, it's the users who actually needs to click on the raised hand to take it off again. Guys, that's the hour. Ladies and gentlemen, sorry. Thank you. And I hope that was not start your weekend after a bad start. Enjoy your day.